This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes, then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max Hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here. We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
who is the Olympic athlete?
His faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want?
No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning. Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
living in times where there is an assault on sanity. Political correctness has run amok and logic has been left by the wayside. Do you constantly ask yourself, WTF is going on in this nation? Do you sometimes feel like a stranger in your own country? Well, fear not. You are not alone. This is the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show, coming to you from deep inside flyover country with your hosts, V. Wright and Jose Estevez.
Even though I'm not in the path of the biggest storm in the entire history of the entire world, I'm all set because I've got beef, Coca-Cola, cheese, and some beef. But then I forgot that I don't have any bacon, so I think I'll still survive, though.
You think you'll be okay without it?
I think I could survive.
You got beef, but you didn't get pork chops? Seriously?
I don't have any pork chops. I need some more pork products. Hey, folks, we are coming to you live, unrehearsed, unscripted, and unpolitically correct. We are PG-13, but we'll never be PC. Welcome to the first show of the week for the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot radio show. Hi, V.
Well, hello, senor. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. How was yours?
Oh, it was, mild, average.
Fair to middling?
Yeah, that would be it.
No, mine was really good. I enjoyed it.
It was quiet, so, a peaceful environment. Yes.
Well, that's good. See, what I'm doing is all those naps that I fought my mom and dad over when I was young and didn't take them.
You're playing catch up.
I was banking them all up, and now, folks, there's days that I might actually get 2 or 3 of those suckers in, and I'm not talking about 5-10 minutes. I'm talking about sometimes a half hour, an hour, and it's just absolutely wonderful. I could be on the floor, on the bed, on the couch, doesn't matter. If I can get, like I said, at least 15, 20 minutes, it's time for a nap. Simple as that. So I had several of those this weekend, and it was all good.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your weekend. It sounds like it. Sounds like you slept your weekend away.
Well, sometimes I think I'm sleeping I think I might have. Okay, never mind. I think I got that disease where you sleep all the time. I was going to say necrophilia, but that is absolutely not the
narcolepsy.
Right word. Narcolepsy. That's the word I was looking for, not the other word that I said, which I shall not repeat.
I hope you don't have necrophilia.
Because that could be taken out of context. Oh, boy.
God, I'm tired.
Narcolepsy. Or maybe, what's the kissing disease that you can get? What's that one? Maybe mononucleosis. I don't know. But not the first thing that I said.
Oh, you just set yourself up to catch it later. I'm just saying.
Boy.
Oh,
anyway, happy Monday, folks. Welcome to the show.
Foolish man.
Welcome to the show, folks. We really are glad you're joining us. And if you are on the East Coast, we're teasing about it. You're probably going to get a couple feet of snow. You might be snowed in for a day or so, but trust me, I don't think the world will stop spinning on its axis or anything like that. But seriously, take care of each other. I guess that's the biggest thing. Take care of each other. We've got a listener, hopefully listening in tonight, that was out this morning gathering up a bunch of feral cats and bringing them inside in cages and stuff just so they'd be warm, giving them some food and stuff. And that's just the kind of stuff that touches my heart. And like I said, do that for your human neighbors as well. If you've got some older people that are shut in, especially if people lose power and stuff, because then, heat and that sort of thing. Older people can be particularly susceptible to that, and very young children too. So just look out for each other out there, okay? I'm sure you'll get through it. And hopefully you can listen to us, and if there's any huge updates, we'll let you know. But I think it's just kind of starting right now, and we'll see what happens if it is indeed the storm of the century or whatever they're calling it. They're really hyping this one up.
They're comparing it to the blizzard of '78, which really did the North it was a doozy. I was in Lansing, Michigan, visiting my grandparents at the time, and they had a 2-story house, and we had to go out through the upstairs windows. So.
Oh, wow. Well, I was either in Texas or Haiti at that time, so not affected by the blizzard of '78 in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
not so much.
Yeah. Anyway.
Back to okay. What do we got to talk
absolutely. About? You guys make sure you take proper precautions. More than likely power's going to go out. Make sure that you can stay warm because it is going to be cold. If you have elderly neighbors, I encourage you, please check in on them. If you have extra blankets or what have you, make sure that they at least have that kind of stuff. Just look out for each other, look out for yourselves, stay warm, stay safe, stay inside.
Yes, definitely do. Hey, V.
What's up?
Guess what?
What's happening?
Some kind of breaking news here, folks. Just came out late this afternoon. And no surprise to any of us that are tuned in and not tuned out, the low and no information voters who won't care about it anyway. But stunning, this is the report. Stunning figure comes from the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO. The report that the revised cost estimates for the next 10 years for Obamacare or Obama tax, whatever you want to refer to it as, the government, your federal government, folks, will spend $1.993 trillion with a T over a decade. But boy, they're going to take in $643 billion because of taxes, penalties, and fees related to Obamacare. Folks, it's going to cost almost $2 trillion in 10 years, but they're going to take in $643 billion to offset it. Do you realize $643 billion compared to $2 trillion there's really no comparison, quite frankly? And the $1.35 trillion net cost will result in between 24 and 27 million fewer Americans being uninsured, but with a cost of $50,000 price tag per person at the best. So that means at the lowest, it's going to cost $50,000 per person, but the law will still leave between 29 and 31 million non-elderly Americans without medical insurance. Holy smokes, they had to pass it to see what's in it, and folks, it is the biggest sack of crap that none of us can imagine. $2 trillion over a decade. They lied to us up one side and down the other, and Gruber, you can say what you want about Gruber, but he was right. He was exactly right. They knew exactly what this was. And, of course, they want it to fail because they want single payer, which is pure outright communism.
Which, if those idiots in Washington, D.C. had a brain in their head, even the Democrats, and I know that that's far-reaching, but we can pray for a single-cell organism rattling around in their skull, they would repeal all of this and just do what they should have done to begin with, and that is expand Medicaid and put it on a sliding scale. End of story. Going to do it anyway. You're going to cover them. They're going to cover them anyway. I mean, they're going to cover them anyway. At least then you wouldn't have had doctors bailing from it. You wouldn't have had the insurance industry in collusion with politicians. You would not have had all of these people. Look at all of the people in the middle class that are making, I would say anyone making less than $100,000 a year that's not working for the government is in jeopardy of being financially bankrupt due to Obamacare.
Right. Well, here's the words of the liar-in-chief, Hussein Obama, when he pledged to members of Congress in 2009, as they were hotly debating this, folks, don't forget, 2009, he said, quote, "The plan I'm proposing will cost around $900 billion over 10 years. Now, the White House wishes they could return to that number today because, and he also said in that speech that more than 30 million American citizens cannot get coverage. Now, if it was at $900 billion, it would be less than $30,000 each, which is less than two-thirds of what the CBO now says the program is actually going to cost. And remember what Hussein Obama said. There were more than 30 million American citizens who cannot get coverage. The CBO just said the law will leave between 29 and 31 million non-elderly Americans without medical insurance. 30 million is right between 29 and 31, except in communist core math. Holy smokes, folks, they lied to us and they sold us a bill of goods that was the biggest. I mean, I think if you sold somebody oceanfront property in Arizona, it would probably not be near as bad as what they did to us with Obama tax. And I'm sure it'll get worse.
But you know what? I hold the CBO accountable as well because they came up with the first numbers.
There you go. That's a good point. I hold them all accountable. I hold them all in contempt. How's that?
You know, they come out and they give this report like it absolves them. If we tell the truth now, it absolves us of any responsibility for all the prior mistakes or whatever situation they want to account for why they would have given those fake numbers to begin with. We all knew that there was no way that they could do this in the fashion that they could do it at the cost that they were looking at or that they were projecting. There's just no way. We said from the very beginning. I remember on pretty much day one of this show, we discussed the only way to make this work and keep our capitalist, greedy, little grubby industrial hands in our own pockets was to expand the Medicaid system and put it on a sliding scale to accommodate, take someone's income into account. And if you wanted to tie that into the IRS for the purpose of determining whether or not someone could financially afford what they could afford, that would have been fine with most of us. It isn't the American citizens' health care that needs to be tied into the IRS. It's the welfare system.
Right. Well, and but you brought up an interesting concept. You talked about accountability. Is there any accountability in the federal government, state governments, local governments? Is there any? I mean, do you see any? Is Lois Lerner in jail yet? Has she been held responsible for anything? How about the people that are responsible for Border Patrol Agent Brian Terry's death, which goes right up to the top echelons of the Justice Department as well as the White House? We had his brother and sister on Thursday, and we made that very clear. What about... Go ahead. There's a laundry list of names. Is anybody ever held accountable? And I'm not talking about just in this regime. Any regime. Is anyone ever held accountable? They can say what it's tantamount to them being able to say whatever they want, and it doesn't matter if it's true or not. There is no accountability. They can, and it's incomprehensible to me that this can happen. I mean, no, and I certainly don't. It's not like I don't expect it. I totally expect it, but it's still incomprehensible to me. How long are we going to let this go on? That's what my question is to all the good listeners out there. How long can this keep going on when they lie like they lie? It's amazing. $900 billion versus $2 trillion. I mean, folks, it's not like it's double the amount or triple the amount. I don't know how to even explain it. I don't have the brain power, the knowledge to explain how much more $2 trillion is than the $900 billion we were quoted. Flat outright lies, folks, at every level of the federal government. And guess what? We're stuck with it, I guess, because I don't see the Republicans in any huge hurry, since they've all been in now and had both houses of Congress, to sit there and do a doggone thing about it, like get rid of the sucker wholesale. Get rid of the whole thing.
Well,
make it go away.
Or convince, what do we need, 6, 7 Democrats? You can't convince 6 or 7 Democrats that they are in jeopardy if they don't start working with you? Seriously? And then I watched an interview that the Weeping Carrot did this past weekend. And he says, the president won't work with us. We want to work with the president. No, dummy, we don't want to work with this president. We want to stop this president.
In his tracks.
And they don't get it. I heard somebody the other day say, I want somebody, that's conservative, but I want them moderate on social issues. You can't be moderate on social issues because it has expanded in such proportion. Social issues are no longer gays and abortion. It's car animals. It's invaders. It's welfare. It's the great racial divide. It's the education system. All of those things are social issues. We cannot steer clear or have somebody who's moderate on social issues, or we're done.
What's the old saying? The only thing in the middle of the road are yellow stripes and dead armadillos. Of course, that's probably if you're in Texas, which I hail from proudly. But seriously, you can't stay in the middle of the road. You can't do that. You can't balance on that fence post. You got to take a stand once in a while. And speaking of Hussein Obama again, did you see he's over in India? But he's going to have to make a stop in and pay his final respects to King Abdullah over there in Saudi Arabia. We called that last week already. I'm surprised he hasn't been there already. But yeah, he's going to make a stop in there too, V, and pay. I don't know what he's going to do. Bow down again to a corpse. I'm not sure exactly what he'll do. He's got to go pay respects. I think in the Muslim world that's a big thing. Got to go pay your final respects and stuff. Pay your tribute or whatever it is.
Well, he's probably got a case full of cash, so.
If he doesn't, he'll probably be bringing one home with him. But I don't think it'll go to the Treasury, though. I'm just going to guess.
Oh, well, you think? While we're speaking about, about the political system and all of that, which is we will delve well into more during the show with our guest.
Yes.
They had the grandstand in Iowa this weekend. And it was interesting. 4 people did not show up for deciding to attend an event in California that the Koch brothers do. I guess money's tight, so we got to go where the money's at. Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Jeb Bush, and Mitt Romney all opted to go to California. However, the list for Iowa was long. There was Huckabee, Chris Christie, Scott Walker, Rick Perry, Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, Donald Trump, Sarah Palin, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, and John Bolton. Now, if you don't know who the last 2 were, Carly Fiorina was the former head of Hewlett-Packard, and John Bolton is a former ambassador for the United States, and he's like Jeb Bush. He's a Democrat.
Right. Yeah. Carly. Oh, you're not talking about Carly, the one that sings the songs. Okay, I'd vote for her, but just because she sings really well.
Carly Simon. No.
Carly Simon. There you go. Another favorite of mine.
You're so vain.
I probably think this song is about me. All right, moving back to what you said. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Anyway, Donald Trump got some accolades when he said that we definitely didn't need Jeb Bush. He's already proved himself to be soft on immigration and is pro Common Core, which makes him an idiot. In essence, is what Donald Trump said.
Which is exactly correct.
And he said he didn't say that Mitt Romney had no business running because he had done it twice, failed, and fumbled and lost the ball last election. And
Good
he's
point.
absolutely correct as well.
Well, 3 strikes, you're out, and this country can't afford a 3rd strike. No way.
The person who got a standing ovation, the only person, and it has been created a lot of buzz, was Scott Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And he got people on their feet. Now, Carla Fiorina had some interesting things to say about Hillary Clinton. I'm telling you, this woman really would like to take a bite out of Hillary.
And that would be good to see. That'd be very interesting.
She was talking about all the miles that Hillary says that gives her experience because she's flown the world. And Carly Fiorina said flying is only traveling unless you're actually doing something.
Yeah, just jet setting around like you're the queen of America or something. Yeah, that's a great point. And boy, the war on women, wouldn't that be interesting to see a strong woman who's actually held positions in private industry and the private sector, and that's actually made money and done things. That'd be very interesting. That'd be a strong opponent for her. So I mean, yeah, I wouldn't count her out. But you know what? But Scott Walker, and once again, we'll just pat our little backs here real quick. We've kind of been talking about him from the beginning. And like I said, 2 of the things that appeal to me, folks, if you don't know anything about Scott Walker, actually there's more than 2. I'm probably going to name 3 or 4, so I can't count very well. Common Core math again. Number 1, no college degree. Bingo, I love it. Number 2, he's not an attorney. We don't need any more attorneys. We don't need any more attorneys there. I said that twice. Number 3, the guy in 2 election cycles has won 3 elections because actually they did a recall election in a pretty much blue state with lots of unions and people from all over the United States going after him, stacking the vote and doing everything else they could to slander the poor guy. He's actually won 3 elections in 2 election cycles. So, got to give him some credit there. I mean, is he perfect? No, he's not perfect. Are any of the names we named perfect? But he leans a little bit more perfectly in my mind than a lot of them for the reasons I've mentioned.
Why I really liked him when he was giving his speech this weekend?
Yeah, what's your take on it?
He was the only individual who stood up and said, we have to combat radical Islamic terrorists.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. He actually will call it what it is, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he had no problem at all. Just, this is a problem and we need to deal with it. And he was very clear in that. It seems, too many are missing so much of the puzzle. I mean, it's like, where are you guys' brains? What world are y'all living in? Because you're not living in the world that I'm living in. Am I living in fantasy land somewhere?
They're not missing it. They're bought and paid for. They're in cahoots. They're not missing it at all. Anybody that says they're missing it or doesn't understand it, I got no use for them. It's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, I just you sit there and you watch them and the liberals and progressives and Marxists and communists, and you watch them go at it, and you sit here and see them joining up with the Islamics. And you're wondering, did I go to sleep? Is this a bad dream? And how in the hell do I wake up?
It's politics. It's politics. It's driven by money. And whoever can play that victim card, and boy, believe me, the Islamo-fascists can play that victim card very, very well. They are learning how to do it, and then they keep burrowing in like a tick the whole time, as they're getting the heat off of them, getting the spotlight off of them.
Oh, one of our chatters is discussing what we can and cannot say with our show being PG-13. It says we can use the S word all we want to, and we can drop the F-bomb one time per show, as in the 1988 movie Big.
Well, I think we probably have to get a second ruling on that before we even try to say it. But yeah, thanks for joining in, guys. We appreciate everybody that's chatting with us and sending us messages while we're on the air. And of course, we appreciate all your listeners. If this is your first show, welcome to the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot show, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We are here. You can communicate with us just like all these folks we're referencing are doing. We are here for you. We love doing the show. This is a labor of love, and hopefully you'll get something out of it as well. We are non-politically correct. We try not to be hateful, but we are as truthful as possibly can be, and you'll get news here that you won't get on any of the big mainstream media sites like ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, MSNBC, you name it, CNN, all of those.
Exactly. And guys, if you guys would like to communicate with us, you can do so by going to our website, thewtfradio.com, and there is an opportunity for you to leave comments, and you can also get our email address and shoot us off an email. We love to hear your comments and questions. So,
we do. We really do love you folks, and love hearing from you and interacting with you.
But we have a great guest coming up.
Yes, we do.
I'm kind of excited. We've actually been trying to get this person on since day one, and finally was able to make our schedules gel. So I'm really glad to looking forward to what's to come.
Folks, it will be honest, unvarnished truth. I can assure you of that. He was on the show once before, V. I had forgotten about that on one of our holiday specials. He had a brief appearance on that. But we were talking more about, what we were talking about that show, which was military service. And he is a Marine, U.S. Marine. We don't say former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. He is a United States Marine. And, folks, we're glad to have him. And right after the break, he will be with us.
Yeah, no kidding. But when he did the show before, I mean, it was a specific show for a specific purpose, and we weren't able to delve into some of the things that we're going to get to delve in tonight. So I'm looking forward to this. But we do have to take a break, guys. Somebody's got to pay the bills. We'll be back in a moment.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes, then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really, really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning. Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Desert sky, Jiminy
Welcome back, everybody. It's WTF, and I am V. Wright.
And I am Jose Estevez. Welcome back to the show, folks. As promised, we have our guest for the evening. His name is Clark Steele. As I said before the break, folks, he is a U.S. Marine, and once a Marine, always a Marine. He served as a Marine during the last stages of Vietnam, prior to the fall of Saigon. He's been PR chairman for the Republican Party for Cobb County, Georgia. He was briefly on Reagan's advance team around about 1985-ish. And during the Newt Revolution in 95 to 97 or 98, he was communications director for a Republican member of Congress from the great state of Georgia. Folks, without further ado, we welcome to the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot radio show, Mr. Clark Steele.
Good evening. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thanks for being on the show with us.
My pleasure.
Clark, we're so glad to have you again. I tell you what, I've been pumping it a little bit because we're all sitting back speculating. And we have no confirmation whatsoever to justify what we think. And the general consensus seems to be that there has to be a great deal of, I don't know how to word this, the only word I can come up with is blackmail going on to our leadership. However, you know, there's nothing to justify that claim. I mean, we have nothing to base that off of. But you've been there. Does that kind of stuff occur?
Well, it depends on what you mean by blackmail. I will tell you this, that the Republican Party has pretty much always been two factions. There's been what we used to think of as an Eastern Seaboard establishment. The Republican Party used to be known as the Rockefeller wing, and then the Goldwater conservatives, and then later that was changed to Reagan. And when Reagan very successfully, was able to win the presidency and, get it by huge majorities each time, but there was always an element in the Republican Party that was more establishment. Now, what people really don't realize is that the Republican Party, because there's no room in the Democrat Party anymore, the Democrat Party is largely a Marxist organization made up of coalitions of malcontents that have, whatever particular primary interest or agenda, but they all stick together. On the Republican side, though, on the other hand, it's made up primarily of what we would consider Tea Party-type Americans, and despite the best efforts of the media and others to vilify, those are actually the people that adhere to the original principles of our founding fathers, and that was codified in the first 10 amendments, or the Bill of Rights, to the United States. And the other Republicans are what I would refer to as plutocrats. Those are people that view themselves as being better informed, wiser, and therefore needing to govern those of us that are part of the great unwashed masses. And so that conflict has been going on at least since my lifetime, and I'm certain before.
Well, absolutely.
So if you're referring to Boehner and McConnell, which I presume you are, it is most likely that they've been won over in that regard, and for whatever reason, they see it as being in their interest to ignore or allow the unlawfulness of this administration.
Wow. It just blows my mind. I sit here and I look at the weeping carrot, and all I can conclude is somebody has something on him. He's being applied pressure by someone somewhere. I
will tell you what I can tell you from blackmail, because that it's not entirely impossible. During Clinton's administration, many people have forgotten this, but when they first were elected and assumed the White House, they immediately, under Hillary's direction, by the way, put a very junior member who was a former bouncer in a bar in Arkansas to pilfering the 900 or 1,100 FBI records of their mostly Republican and some Democrat opposition. And that clearly was for the purpose of leverage and blackmail. What happens is when you get a post somewhere in the federal government, the FBI typically does some kind of an investigation. I participated in one. I didn't investigate, but I was one of the persons queried when the member that I had served for had earlier had an appointment as United States Attorney. And the FBI came out and asked me basic questions. Well, there's no telling what someone might volunteer or how aggressive the FBI agent interviewer might be and what kind of information might be gleaned from that. So what they would do is the Clintons, I presume, use the information and then probably had surrogates such, who would fund private investigations, such as Larry Flint, for instance.
Right.
To see if these stories had legs. And as you well know, that unlike the Democrats, where infidelity, drug use, prior arrest, and so forth are resume enhancements, in the Republican Party, that's your political death. And so all they had to do was find out if there were legs to any of these things. And they actually did use it during the impeachment against Clinton. They tried to they actually successfully were able to force Bob Livingston, the Appropriations Committee chairman from Louisiana, to resign. And I think what that was probably a shot across the bow for other members. And then they tried to do the same thing to Henry Hyde, who, as a young man in college, I think at the ripe old age of 20 or 22, was seduced into a relationship with a married woman in her 40s, like the Mrs. Robinson movie of, great fame. So, yeah, that kind of blackmail goes on, and there is speculation, possibly, I can't confirm that kind of blackmail may have been used, against a certain Supreme Court justice when it came to ruling on Obamacare. What you have to remember is the member or the judge or whoever themselves may not have committed an infraction, but could indeed have a close family member, that they would need to protect and would be vulnerable under those circumstances.
Well, Hillary Clinton. Point. Well, exactly. Hillary Clinton has been exposed as having pulled those tactics in relationship to the women that her husband has had affairs with. It has been reported that many people left the administration of the Clintons when it came to light that she was not utilizing the investigative team to prop up a situation for divorce proceedings, but rather to blackmail the young ladies to keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that she's heralded by the left and a great deal of women in America as being a champion of women's rights, when in fact she's quite the opposite. She's gotten everywhere she's gotten politically by riding Bill Clinton's coattails, and then by destroying the victims of Bill Clinton. And what you have to remember is, while that some of these women may have been willing, like Jennifer Flowers, for instance, and obviously I think there's stories of some, members of Hollywood that, visited the White House and probably had a close and personal stay in the Lincoln bedroom or something. But there were others that were not willing.
Right.
And Kathleen Willey, Jennifer Flowers, Juanita Broderick, are just three women that come to mind. And of course, Hillary Clinton and the media and the left did everything they could to trash and destroy the credibility of those victims.
Well,
so hardly guardians of women's rights.
Clark, I've got a question for you, and it may involve some speculation on your part or just some of your own opinion, which I think is fine. But you were in Washington, D.C. during Clinton, right around the midterms there, in the mid-'90s when, like you said, the Republican Revolution, led by Newt Gingrich, kind of swept over the land. Why do you think the Clintons get such a pass on everything? Bill, for everything that they've done and but they get a pass on everything. Now we've got all this money missing in Haiti that was given to their foundation. I mean, billions and billions of dollars just gone. But the women, the assaults on women, the sexual assaults, everything that we have, the outright lies, Hillary saying I dodged sniper fire in Bosnia or wherever she was, all these different things. Why do they get a pass on everything? I mean, do they have this big of a team behind them protecting them? They had the Raging Cajun. I know he was a devious. He's a vicious person. I mean, but is it that they have people protecting them? And if so, why? What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, it's a little more simplistic, than even that. And by the way, I spent most of my time in the district. By the way, most of my time actually was in the 7th District of Georgia, which comprised, I believe, 11 counties at that time. It stretched from the northern end of the state down to the southernmost western part of the state. Anyway, what you have to remember is the following things. Consider this. Walter Cronkite, who gave us that's the way it is with that grandfatherly, you can trust me, persona every night, was a card-carrying socialist. And what is socialist? Socialist is a Marxist. So if Walter Cronkite was a Marxist and had no problem, tilting the news, shall we say, and then you look at the fact that JFK actually picked up hookers off the street and, to satisfy his urges or ego or whatever, and he was protected. And you consider that FDR was in a wheelchair and also had a relationship with his secretary, and he was protected. But if you recall, none of that was afforded to any of the Republicans. Certainly Betty Ford didn't get that protection, when she had a substance abuse problem. And certainly Richard Nixon was never given that kind of protection. Lyndon Johnson was another ruthless Lothario that would force himself on members of the opposite sex, and the media never told you about that. But on the other hand, a liberal senator from Oregon by the name of Bob Packwood was forced to resign because he was having relationships and probably some over-eager or flirtation with adult women, while Bill Clinton, during the same time period, is given a pass, for what he had done. This isn't something new. I mean, you consider Jerry Studs, who was a congressman from Massachusetts, a Democrat, who took a page out of the country, sodomized him, comes back to the United States, and is given nothing more than a censure, and he turns his back on the censure in the Congress, which was his way of, flipping them off.
Right.
And then you contrast that with Republican Congressman Mark Foley down in the West Palm Beach area, I believe, who actually did nothing more than send ribald text to adult staffers, who was forced to resign, and then Nancy Pelosi attempted to have the FBI investigate him. In fact, the FBI may have investigated him. I don't know that they didn't. I know that was her intent. So you can show these contrasts throughout, and the difference is that the media in this country, academia, and in pop culture, for some reason, turn a blind eye to what Democrats do, and on the other hand, are quick to get a rope and build a gallows if a Republican spits on the sidewalk. You know, you look at Scooter Libby, who committed nothing more than a process crime because he didn't answer a question properly under the FBI's interview, when in fact he'd committed no crime. And then you look at Sandy Berger, who had actually been the national security advisor, who goes to the National Archives and steals and destroys classified documents relating to 9/11. Exactly. And all he does is pay a fine, which in fact never came out of his pocket. It was paid by Democrat operatives.
Wow.
So it's that's the reason. It has nothing to do with Hillary or Bill Clinton individually, or as individuals or their own persona. It has to do with the party affiliation. And the Democrats have a standard, and the Republicans have a different standard.
Okay. Well, and V has mentioned it, and it sounds like you would concur with what she says, that no matter what happens to a Democrat, they circle the wagons. They will, no matter how much blood is in the water, they will circle the wagons. And the Republicans just let each other go and, sink or swim, feed you to the sharks, basically.
The Republicans not only will just let them go, the Republicans will actually, form a posse and turn the person over.
Boy, isn't that the truth? It sure is.
So Clark, what do you think is going on in D.C.? I mean, you've got the Weeping Carrot up there, and you've got Mitch McConnell up there, and they have seen and been on. Both of them had got reelected, espousing things that the minute they return to D.C., they conveniently forget, but they're very well aware of the rising tide in America that says, stop this, man, and they're doing absolutely nothing to do that. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I do think that there's fear from two areas, primarily the media. Republicans have been Pavlovian trained to respect the media, and because they know the media has a bias and the media is always going to be against them. And that's true. I mean, they do. They respond like a Pavlovian dog. And and then their agenda's different. You take the issue of illegal immigration. Well, the plutocrats, because they are largely corporatist, are thrilled with the idea of having these cheap laborers, flood our communities.
Right.
Whereas the average American obviously is not happy about that, and for good reason. So you have people like Jeb Bush, for instance, who, by the way, may adopt a more conservative tone because he wants to run for president. But, he's open borders, just like the National Chamber of Commerce is for open borders.
Right.
And so what they'll do is they have an agenda that's similar in some respects that coincides with the Democrats. Now, Obama, on the other hand, if you don't mind me, going out here just on a little bit different subject.
By all means.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have always tried to figure him out, and the more I look at what he's done, the more I'm convinced of what I thought initially. And that is that Obama is an Islamist who has managed to co-opt the assistance of the left, because remember the statement or the old maxim, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Right.
Well, Obama, as you know, has shown a great deal of respect and deference to the leaders and the religion of Islam, right?
Yes.
But he shows no deference or respect to the leaders of Christianity or the leaders of Judaism. And that's just a fact, and that's in fact it's empirical because you can witness it over the last 7 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Right, and if you go back to the image of him bowing to the Saudi king, and the reason I bring that up is because he's headed over there now, to show his respect to the new king. Well, in Islam, the Saudi king, whatever, to use a Mark Levin phrase, yabba dabba doo name he has, is the custodian of the two most holy mosques, which is the one in Medina and the one in Mecca.
Right.
And so when he was bowing, he was symbolically bowing to a religious cleric, that held the keys to those mosques. Had nothing to do with the Saudi king himself as an individual. In fact, the Saudi king as an individual despised Obama.
Right.
Because Obama's Arab Spring thing wasn't exactly in his plans. But Obama, if you look at the last 6 years, everything he's done has destabilized the region in favor of Iran. And if you understand ancient history and you understand how a caliphate was established, two of the most important states that were taken and converted to form the caliphate were Syria and Iraq.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And his greatest opposition in the area, when I say his, I'm referring to forming a caliphate, would have been the Saudis and the Israelis. Well, when you eliminate Yemen as a buffer, they're right on the border now of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is where the Wahhabist sect came from. That's where the religious extremism came from. So my guess is that at some point in time, that's the whole idea, is that whole region will fall. And as you know that I've said this in the past, I firmly believe that he deliberately protracts the conflict in Iraq in such a way to where he gives a window dressing appearance of fighting the Islamist, but at some time is counting on the lack or impatience, rather, of the American people, or at least of the media, and will use it as a pretext to make the control of ISIS the responsibility of Iran, effectively turning that state over to Iran.
Okay. Clark, would you be
willing...
willing...
I'm convinced he's an Islamist.
I am too.
So are we. I mean, like you said, I don't know that I'd outright call him a Muslim, but I mean, certainly everything he does facilitates what they're doing, enables them throughout the world. And I mean, so can I say he's a flat out Muslim? No, but I mean, I believe you're exactly correct.
Well,
can we ask you to come back after the break, Clark? We're right up against the top of the hour.
Sure.
Can I be so bold as to ask you to come back and we'll continue our conversation on a myriad of topics and stuff like that? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Wonderful.
Clark, I go by the philosophy, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it's a duck. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Affleck.
You know.
We're going to break, guys. We'll be back in just a moment.
Stay with us.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes. Then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really, really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
The most amazing thing about the Ford Fusion isn't the way it looks. The most amazing thing is the way it sees. With blind spot technology, a lane keeping system, and a standard rear view camera, the Fusion is ready for whatever comes your way. Go prepared. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day.
The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown.
This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back, everybody. It's WTF, and I am V. Wright.
And I am Jose Estevez. Welcome back to the show, folks. Second hour, first show of the week. We are back with our special guest, Clark Steele. He's been gracious enough to come back and spend some more time with us and talk about a variety of things. V, take it away.
Well, I mean, you know, we're sitting here. We've done a lot on, you know, back in the 90s, and we've discussed a little bit about what's going on overseas, and I, you know, I could sit here with Clark for hours and hours and listen, but unfortunately our time is limited. So I guess, I mean, Clark, with your experience and your political knowledge and background, how do we move forward? And yet, I say move forward, how do we move forward as a nation and reel ourselves back to be more grounded with our founding fathers and the two documents that hold us together?
Well, that's not a simple answer. I mean, it really isn't. The left has used the tools against us through academia, through the media, and then Americans themselves, I guess because of the pursuit of, a bigger, better car than your neighbor and band practice and soccer practice and so forth, have allowed this. The founders gave us a process by which to weed out representatives that failed us, and it wasn't the general election, it was the primary system. But, even 30, 40 years ago, Americans just took it for granted that the rest of us were going to select the best candidate. And as a result, that's why you wind up with people like Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, because the people in their states or districts, as the case may be, weren't involved or interested or concerned enough to participate in a primary process that would replace them with someone, that was, a better choice, someone that was a better articulator of conservative values and a steward of our Constitution and our culture. And then on the other hand, academia has been filled largely with leftists, as we all well know.
Mm-hmm.
The media has been to the left at least since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, I can't speak to what they were before then, and they've always been, and they were limited only by culture as to how far they could go, but now they're not limited. Now they can, allow absurdity to be reality. To give you an example from this past weekend, you've got a staffer from the White House, I don't remember the person's name, that was interviewed by Chris Wallace, that was just like the president was, and I hate using that term, crowing about, the low fuel prices in the State of the Union and then on Chris Wallace, when in fact those of us that pay attention know that in fact that he opposed the development and exploration and exploitation of natural resources in America. In fact, they've sued companies against using it. They've lost, and of course they ignore them in the courts. His EPA's gone out of their way to shut down these industries. And then it's only been on private lands, where they couldn't stop the fracking and other enterprises that lowered the fuel cost. And the other thing too that people forget about is one of the reasons the fuel costs are low isn't just because of fracking. It's because when gas was typically $3.60, $3.70 a gallon, and the average person had already lost about $5,000 worth of income because of Obamacare and inflation in the foods and so forth. Well, they weren't buying gasoline and traveling like they were. So the surplus builds up. So what do? You dump the surplus. So, but it's not an easy answer. It can't be done overnight. I get very frustrated, obviously, and I sometimes turn back to the words from Thomas Jefferson, which advocate watering the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots.
Right.
But it's not something I want to have happen. This country witnessed a very bloody and brutal civil war, 140 some years ago, 150 some years ago. And, that just wasn't just a very nasty ordeal for many, many years. Now, the difference is, you don't have a region that's isolated. There are sections of the country where, conservatives are spread out, and it's actually the left that's more isolated. They're isolated in big cities, and we know where they are. But you would hope to avoid that. Well, the only way you can do it really is by being active, You have to go to your school boards. You have to demand that the school boards adhere to standards, and that they're not teaching your kids, how to put condoms on cucumbers and learning how to wear a burqa. And a lot of that has, unless you're willing to do that, you're going to sacrifice your culture.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people are disheartened right now because, here we had this past November, we had this massive, historic takeover. And then when they get seated, it's, okay, let's revert back to the same old routine. The weeping carrot, like I said earlier, just this past weekend. Oh, Obama doesn't want to work with us. But let me tell you, we want to work with Obama. We don't want you to work with Obama. We want you to stop him.
I agree, but this is not a new phenomenon. I witnessed it in 1995. In 1994 and, 92, 93, 94, there had been a lot of scandals involving Democrats in the United States Congress. I don't know if you all remember the House banking scandal, the post office scandal, Dan Rostenkowski.
Mm-hmm.
And the people were fed up, and they turned control of the House, which had not been done for, I believe, 40 or 50 years, to the control of a very aggressive young man by the name of Newt Gingrich as Speaker. Unfortunately, Newt had a personality flaw, which handicapped him. But to his credit, he was aggressive, and he did the contract with America where we promised certain reforms. And those reforms were actually spearheaded by conservative freshmen, not longtime stalwarts in the party, but by freshmen. There were people like the member I work for, Sonny Bono, J.D. Hayworth, J.C. Watts, Steve Largent, Helen Chenoweth. I don't know if you remember any of those names, but I remember those people.
Definitely.
I do.
And they actually helped spearhead the legislative reforms that the Contract of America promised. The problem is that once those items went through the House and were approved by the Republican majority, they had to go to a conference committee where the Senate, has to produce their own version in order for it to become a bill that goes to the president. Well, the problem is you had people like Orrin Hatch in particular,
right,
and Ted Stevens, Alan Simpson, McConnell, of course, Mitch McConnell, Lamar Alexander, John McCain, that preach brimstone and fire in the pulpit at the town hall meeting, and then they go to Washington and they backstab the House. They either water down the legislation to where it's just mere window dressing, or they kill it in committee. So the people of America who spoke and said, we want reform, we want this cleaned up, and they give you the tools to do it, well, then it gets undermined by Republicans, by rhinos.
Right.
The people that you didn't expect to. I mean, Orrin Hatch was respected, for his his conservative watchdog persona with judicial appointees. When in reality, he's a deal maker. And unfortunately, someone that I greatly admire, who's a radio talk show personality and attorney, Mark Levin, only just realized that recently in the last 2 years. I learned it sadly back in 1995. And
Mark
that
was
was
a little
the problem.
late to the game on the amount of rhinos we have.
And that's very surprising too, but nonetheless, I mean, he does a great job. I've got a rhetorical question. I don't know if any of us can answer it, but I want to throw it out there. We're talking about how do we get this country back on track, more towards the ideals that it was founded on. But how, and like I said, rhetorical question, how can we do that if we've already acknowledged, and Clark, you've just mentioned it too in the last segment, that the progressives, the liberals, the commies, whatever you want to call them, have gotten into academia at the lowest levels, before, preschool, pre-K, all these different programs, all the way up through college. And if the kids are truly the future, which we know they are, then how do we overcome that? Because now they've got Common Core, we refer to as Commie Core, Communist Core, and a lot of the things they're rewriting, so it looks like it's the original documents, like they'll talk about the Bill of Rights, for example, Second Amendment, but it'll be written in such a way that it's not written in the Constitution. How do we overcome that? How is that even possible, knowing that at every level of the education, the public education system in the United States, they have infiltrated it and done it for years and years and years? It scares the heck out of me. I've got 2 kids in school.
Well, the only way that can really be done is through the state legislatures and then through whatever county, city, borough jurisdiction there is for school boards. So you have to demand in your local community. In fact, I don't know if you all know the story, and I'm not, a close friend of Mark Levin. He certainly doesn't pay me anything, but one of the stories he tells is that he was very unhappy about the school board in his community, and he ran for school board and was elected at the ripe old age, I think, of 20 or 21 or something like that while he was in college. And that's really what it takes, is you have to be willing to get in their faces on a local level and put the fear of God in them. Let me give you, I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Here's an example. Duke University was going to have a Muslim trumpet, call to prayer.
Yes, they were. We reported about that, absolutely.
And you know why they changed their minds?
Because the parents got up there and outraged and threatened to pull their children and quit funding them.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. It was fear. And unless you're willing to exert that kind of fear where it matters, you're not going to get change.
Well, Clark, I will tell you, on this show, we have a particularly large listening base from Princeton University. And when we first started this show, we had a similar scenario. They would all gather together, about 300 or so, in common areas and listen to our show. And then the school came in and said, well, if you guys are going to do this, we're going to charge you for the room, we're going to charge you for cleanup, we're going to, and it's going to cost you about $300 a night to listen to this show. And the kids got on the phone with their parents, and the parents started calling, and mysteriously, they were able to continue to listen to our show. And they're with us tonight, and we thank you, Princeton.
Definitely.
Well, I take my hats off to them, and for what it's worth, and I hope those people that are listening to the show that are in college will remember this. The professor in your class is a contract labor that you're paying for or your parents are paying for. And never be intimidated by the professor. I remember when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went on the GI Bill to school at night, and I had a professor that was parroting the, we lost Vietnam myth. And I stood up in the class and I asked him what unit he was in. And he looked at me surprised, and he said, are you a veteran? And I said, yeah. So I identified the fact that I had been in the Marine Corps and served during the... Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't at Khe Sanh or Dong Ha or, Chu Lai or someplace, but... of course, my peers were, and my immediate supervisors were, and I was keenly aware of history. And I remember having that conversation with him and educating him about Operation Linebacker, and then him asking me after the class, wasn't I afraid of getting a bad grade by challenging him? And my reply was, why would I be? You work for me, I don't work for you. You're paid to give me an education in whatever subject I've chosen. You're not paid to give me an editorial on what you believe.
There you go,
Wow.
Princeton. There you go.
There you
and
go.
guys, we know that we've got listeners at Yale. We know we've got listeners at Auburn. We've got listeners at University of Florida. Well, these are things that we know. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple of professors from all of those schools that listen to us. So take that word and allow it to empower you.
Good way. Yeah.
Yeah,
good way to put it.
Be respectful, obviously, but they owe you respect. It's no different than if you went to, let's say you hired a paint contractor into your house, and he was supposed to paint your walls light green, and then he tells you, no, that's not the proper color, and he decides to change it. You understand? It's the same thing. It's a contract between you and he.
Right.
Exactly. So, Clark, I got to hear, because I know what your opinion is.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because I rarely give it.
I know. I just really have to dig deep for that. What do you think about the Caranimals? The invasion of the Caranimals here in the United States.
Well, obviously, it's been allowed and tolerated, hasn't it? In fact, it's been encouraged, and again, it points to a conversation we had offline about if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and that's my opinion of the commander-in-chief. I think he's a Muslim. I think he's an Islamist.
Mm-hmm.
And if those groups, those organizations had, barbed wire training camps where white supremacist or militia groups, such as Montana or northern Michigan, etc., you can bet dollars to donuts that the ATF and the FBI would know everything about them.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Last week we had Constitutional Sheriff Thomas Laurie from Fulton County, New York, and he's right up there, in the vicinity of one of those. And he said the same thing. He says, it's very concerning because we know it's there, and we know what's going on there, and we know the feds know it, and they're doing nothing about it. It is extremely concerning. Now, you're very fortunate. You live in a very conservative state that is just pushing itself further and further conservative. As a matter of fact, it is looking more and more appealing to me, and it is my neighbor, the great state of Alabama.
Well, that's true. I am blessed to at least have a U.S. senator such as Jeff Sessions. In particular, he is the real deal, always was the real deal. He was a United States attorney back when the member I ultimately served for was a United States attorney in Georgia. And unfortunately, because of national bias, the guy that would probably make the best president, will never have the ability or the opportunity.
Wow.
And that'd be Senator Jeff Sessions.
Why do you think Jeff Sessions won't run?
With national bias for the region, he's he'll be portrayed as a card carrying member of the Jefferson Davis Party, and as though he wears gray or nutmeg and still goes out and salutes the Confederate battle flag. Which is not the Stars and Bars, by the way, for those in the audience who don't know the difference. The portrayal, and then you have some bias that was, justifiably caused by Jimmy Carter, from Georgia back in the mid-late 70s.
Oh, yes, our peanut farmer did us well.
Yeah, and in Alabama, of course, is, the home of... George Corley Wallace, and that's another myth that has been perpetrated by the media for the last 50 years. And in fact, when I came to Alabama, I was surprised to learn from blacks, not from whites, that Wallace had actually done more for blacks than any governor they'd ever had, and they actually had a personal high regard for him.
It's amazing. it's amazing what you can learn from the black community if you just listen to them, and you find out that the mass majority are not Ferguson thugs or Saint Skittles of Trayvon.
Yeah, the problem is that most of them, by and large, have conservative values. It's just that they've been so led down the garden path by academia and by the media that they know a little bit of the truth, just enough to make them dangerous. So they support. But most of them don't realize that Al Gore's father, for instance, or Bill Clinton's mentor, Fulbright,
right.
We're racist.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No,
they don't know that.
No, they don't. They don't know it, and the Republican or conservative establishment, for the most part, have acquiesced to the anti-racist movement that seems to be going on, and won't stand up and say this is not true. I mean,
well, again, it's water traveling down a hill. It follows the path of least resistance. So they believe it's in their best interest to acquiesce as opposed to articulating reality.
Well, I'm not one of those people. I mean, you're very familiar with my area of the country and what the demographics are, and I have no problem at all periodically taking my little sign and putting it out in the front yard that says MLK was a Republican. Just to make.
Did you know James Brown was a Republican?
I did know that.
I didn't.
Yeah, James Brown was Republican. Yep.
Clark, I have loved having you on. We could sit here for days. I swear. I follow your post. I pay attention to just about everything that you post. As a matter of fact, I've got you on my close list so that I don't miss much. And I thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me again, and I did want to make one qualifier about my post, which I hope people will understand what I'm trying to say. For years, I tried being civil to a fault, about the enemies of enlightenment in America. You have to remember the founders were the Age of Enlightenment.
Right.
And I'm not so civil anymore because civility has only diminished our cause. It hasn't helped us because you can't fight a war when you're going to use, politeness, and the other side's going to use every tactic they have. So it's time that Republicans and conservatives took the gloves off and saw the enemy as they are and fought them as the enemy fights us.
Well said. Very well said. Thank you for being on our show. Tell us, Clark, what's one of your favorite cigars? We know you're big into cigars. That's one of your things you enjoy in life. Give us the name of one of the great ones.
Well, my favorite is no longer in production. It was a Hoya 1970 Antonio Gran Reserva. But there are two cigar companies in particular. If the other company were to go out of business, I could get along with. I love LFD, La Flor Dominicana. I greatly appreciate Perdomo. And I'll give a plug to my buddy Oscar Rodriguez's cigar company called GTO.
Okay.
There we go.
That's more than you asked for, but you asked me.
All right, then I've got one more question. If you could own any vehicle, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I really wish you hadn't asked me that question. Although, obviously, I'm going to promote an American car company, and the car company that didn't take any money from the taxpayer was Ford.
Hey, that's one of our sponsors. We love Ford.
You better believe it. We sure do.
Well, I mean, you think about it. They didn't take any money, and they built their cars to meet the market, and they've done an outstanding job. I mean, I don't have to, shill for them, but they make tremendous products now.
Sure.
So I'd feel comfortable saying Ford.
Okay, so what Ford in history would be your one if you could narrow it down to one? Give us one.
1937 Zephyr Coupe.
Oh, wow. There you go.
See, I knew he would come up with a grand one. I knew it. Clark, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have.
And me as well.
Well, thank you both.
You're welcome.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a good night. Thank you, sir.
Guys, we've got to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes, then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really, really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max Hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here. We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown. This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back, everybody. It's V, right?
And I am Jose Estevez. Hey, folks. Breaking news on the show. Breaking news, folks. Bo Bergdahl, American Taliban. We refer to him as Bo Al Bergdahl. If you remember right, he left his post in Afghanistan. Several military people were killed trying to find him, lost their lives. And it sounds like, and we don't have, well, I think we're pretty good with this, that we're going to run with it. According to an ex-military on Bill O'Reilly just now, Bergdahl has been charged with desertion. So that's very interesting. And this is according to Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, retired. Bo Bergdahl will be charged with desertion. And they're also saying that Schaefer, this retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, is saying that the Army, quote, wants to do the right thing. However, the White House is not cooperating with the process. Yeah, who wouldn't figure that after they released 5 top Taliban back to the battlefield for Bergdahl, not to mention a bunch of money, and that's really never been talked about, but a significant amount of money. So, folks, we're hoping to get more information on this, if not tonight, for tomorrow night's show, because we told you we were going to stick with this all the way through, because this guy is scum, and of course he was going to be given a hero's welcome when he came back, and that was quickly squashed when people started realizing what was going on, and brave members of his unit and others in the military, despite signing these non-disclosure statements, spoke out against it, saying this is wrong. Like I said, we got top 5 Taliban released back to the battlefield late last year for this guy, and I'm telling you what, folks, it sounds like the U.S. Army is going to charge him with desertion. I don't know what punishment would be. I know it can be just I'm not sure. I'm not even going to say. I'm not sure what it can be. It doesn't say anything about that, but we're going to keep following this. And it looks like it's true, and I really hope it's true, because that would be justice. And, of course, we'd have to wait to see what the punishment is. But just want to let you guys know that's coming out right now as we're live on the air.
That is amazing.
Right. And, well, of course, folks, the White House has known for a long time about this and been very deeply involved in it. So, you know what? If Hussein Obama is for it, you know it's bad all the way through, and it stinks to high heaven. And, folks, I hope justice is served here, because there's so many times that we're not getting justice and the right thing isn't happening. But let's hope that this guy that took off and joined the enemy, and like I said, you can say, well, Jose, how do you know he joined the enemy? Folks, he spent 5 years with the Taliban and returned with his neck attached to his shoulders. What more do you need to know? Seriously, think about it for just a second. Think about that. 5 years and comes back, and like I said, 5 top people. These weren't just little guys in the Taliban or in the war in terror. These were 5 top leaders released back to the battlefield to continue to do war against us. And let's hope this is true. And I guess we'll wait and see what the punishment's going to be and how this all works out. But hopefully the White House and this regime are not going to be able to go against this one and change it up. Let's hope. We'll wait and see, though.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it falls out, because, as you said, the White House is not wanting to be involved in this, and the reason that they're not going to want this to go to trial, because then the details will have to come out.
Mm-hmm.
This one, as much as it's nice that that they're charging him, do you honestly think that this is actually ever going to go to a trial? And if it does, it definitely will never be a public trial.
Well, no, because I think one of the punishments could be including death. So, I mean, I would imagine he'd want to save his rear end. I mean, he saved it for 5 years living with the Taliban, and who knows what might come out of it and stuff. I just hope that he's under lock and key somewhere, and he's not able to take a quick walk over there in Fort Marcy Park or something like that. I mean, he better stay out of places like that.
The other thing that just popped into my head is, if they do charge him and they do find him guilty and sentence him to, don't you think that those in the White House have so much to lose that they wouldn't immediately offer him a pardon?
Oh, and some of the posts I'm seeing and stuff like that are referring to that it's very possible he could receive a presidential pardon. Would not surprise me a bit, especially if things start to go south. and not work like they expect. So, yeah. I don't know. This is going to be interesting. We said we were going to stay on it, and obviously the story's not over yet. But it looks like in breaking news, he is going to be charged with desertion from the Army, and let's hope that happens. And yeah, whatever happens after that, we'll stick with it till the story is completely done.
Absolutely.
And justice is served, hopefully.
Well, one can hope. I know he won't be returning to his little where was it, Idaho house?
Idaho or somewhere, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Because the Army had stationed him down in San Antonio in a desk type job or something like that. So, but don't forget, folks, not only did he come back with his head attached to his shoulders, but he was also up for, I think it was something like $300,000 in back pay because of all the promotions he would have received while he was gone, and that included up to some one of the ranks of sergeant that he would have been promoted to. And I think some of the people were saying it was like $300,000 in back pay and a whole lot of different things. So this is a big story. Be very interesting to continue to follow.
Well, it is going to be a big story, and it's going to maintain its momentum, I believe, as long as they keep moving forward. I don't think anyone expected this revelation due to the fact that they have refused to release the Bergdahl report.
Mm-hmm. For a long time now.
Well, exactly. And we know that is because of this regime's activities in it. Someone said today that you've got to remember that Iran-Contra was the same kind of deal as what we've got going on with Iran now and what we've been going on, and they made the connection of Bergdahl and all of that in deals with Iran. And I'm sorry, but that's totally, it might be similar, but it was wrong then too, and people went to jail for it.
Right. There was definitely some accountability, and you can argue it all day long. That's a long time in the past, but we've never said that we pick, that, for example, President Reagan, if we're talking Iran-Contra, that he was a perfect human being. Certainly not. Nobody is. But once again, it always comes down harder on Republican people, Republican administrations than it ever does on the Democrats, socialists, leftists, progressives, whatever you want to call them, commies. Always comes down harder. So I mean, this is just a story we need to keep up with, and one of the people that's talking to us is saying during wartime that actually you can be hung for desertion. So I don't know. I mean, is that possible? I mean, certainly it's on the table, or on the gallows, I guess.
Well,
would be more accurate. Well, wait and see.
He likes to hold on to his head, so I mean,
hey, you got to give the guy credit. 5 years with the core animals, and he walked out with his head still attached. Yeah, well, he's got something going for him.
That's called allegiance.
And I'm telling you what, five top core animal scumbags are released for him. So I'll tell you what, man, he's got some juice. That's all I can say.
Yeah. No. I'd like to see him get some juice.
Well, maybe that's another possibility.
Yeah,
a healthy dose of electricity is what you're saying.
That's it. Some Jules juice,
or juice that they put into your arms, and that's well, who knows? We'll wait and see.
Or drink the Kool-Aid. Jim Jones has still got the recipe.
Yeah, the Kool-Aid. A lot of people are drinking the Kool-Aid nowadays. That's for sure. A lot of people.
I tell you what.
Continue to drink it 7 years in. Continue to drink the Kool-Aid. So, and of course, Leavenworth, Kansas. That's another possibility. I mean, we'll wait and see, folks. But
I was talking to a very good friend of both of ours the other day.
I have friends
on the telephone. Yeah.
When did this happen?
I don't know.
Sorry,
before I met you.
Okay.
Not to imply I have stopped you from having friends.
Okay, moving on.
Just that you have friends that I have met through you, and they're wonderful people. Anyway, one of them called me the other day, Mr. King.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we were discussing racism, and I don't know why this is popping in my head, but we were discussing racism, and he said, a lot of black people don't even understand that they're racist. When you ask them why they voted, what particular thing created their approval and got their encouragement for their vote for Obama, and the only thing that they can come up with is black, then we're not calling it out as being racism, but that's exactly what it is.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm.
And he said he's been speaking to a couple of his, black friends, and when this, topic of conversation comes up, he puts it out there. He says they don't even realize it, and it's like they have this major epiphany, and he says you can sit there and watch the disappointment come over their face because, they're casting these stones and so easily, calling other people out and not even realizing that one of the reasons that they may be doing that is because they're internalizing. So it was just an interesting thing because we're talking about here it is 6-7 years later and they still don't see it. That's why I felt like that was relevant.
No, I think it is totally relevant. And I think, to be honest with you, the black people, by and large, great percentages, and not all of them, obviously we've got some very strong conservative black people, have been done a disservice because they've allowed themselves to be used for so many years. And they kind of refer to it, and I hate to refer to it, but that you've heard of it said is they're continuing to be on the plantation, and in a way it is because the Democrats, the commies, the leftist progressives, whatever you want to refer to them as, all of the above, and then some, used them over and they never, they keep talking about this war on poverty and they're going to help them, bring them up, but they never do. But they continue to use them. But at some point, don't they have to take responsibility and say we're not going to allow ourselves to be used anymore? They have to be empowered and say, look, we're not going to be used anymore. And I mean, that's not going to happen overnight. And we do see that in many cases where I guess you could kind of say that they're throwing off the chains and stuff, and they open their eyes. And that doesn't mean they're going to be Republican, but it simply means they need to look at who offers them the most.
And
I don't know.
Does
that make any sense?
Absolutely, and find the truth. Absolutely,
right.
As our guest tonight said, more and more of the individuals that he comes in contact with that are black, when you get beyond all the media hype and actually get into what they believe more in line with the conservative. They are conservative in their overall views. Let's look at this country. Who's got the massive numbers that still go to church on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Who has no problem walking through the grocery store singing hymns?
Yeah.
I mean, so when you look at it in that perspective, it's totally understandable that that they are of conservative mindset, but also they have been fed that they are oppressed and that people are trying to keep them down, and that where they're at when they're not seeing any progress in their neighborhoods, that is someone else's fault. They're not being told if you want it to change, you start at home.
Yeah, good point. And that's a good lesson for everyone. That's a good lesson for everyone. If everyone was a little bit more like that in the United States, and so that doesn't just apply to one group or not, things would be much better. People would take accountability and responsibility for their own actions and behaviors, and work to lift themselves up to be more, to aspire to be more, which is indeed probably one of the last countries that you can do that in.
Well, and if you want, I was talking to my nephew, this past weekend. He had come over and helped me organize a little bit up in my attic. And, he spent the majority of his life growing up in California, in L.A. So I was really concerned. So I decided to have a discussion with him. Fortunately, he gets it. How he came out of that environment his whole life out in California, except for the last 2 years, but yet he gets it. He says, every time I've been down, it's because I've been lazy. And when I grabbed my breath and got off my butt, my life got better. And I said, well, you don't think that, you don't think that I should I should go out there and work while you sit on the curb and watch me, and that you think I would be wrong to sit right there and eat my steak in front of you? And he says, no. And I was blown away, because this is a kid, and we're talking about a young kid. I mean, he's only 21 now. So we're talking about a kid from that environment that gets it. So not, we sit here and see all of these kids rising up in stupidity, but it seems to be those from the likes of colleges like Berkeley. They're making the most noise, but they are not the majority. They're from the most liberal colleges, it appears. Just like our guys from the colleges across the country that listen to us, particularly Princeton, because of my golden child goes there. And the wonderful kids there, but they're I don't know that they're the minority there, but the liberal deal in that school, it has the loudest voice, and the squeaky wheel always gets the most attention.
Right. I'm going to say something, folks. Kids out there, I mean, I say kids. If you're in high school, college, you're a kid to me, okay? I know you may be an adult. But, folks, America is the greatest country in the history of the world. I firmly believe that. I've lived overseas, grew up in in a dictatorship, third world dictatorship. America is not perfect. America is never going to be perfect. Guess what? Because it's comprised of human beings, and human beings were inherently flawed. That's part of what being a human being is. You are in the greatest country in America. Nobody owes you a doggone thing. But you know what? You are in a country where, even though as tough as it's getting to be, you can still go out and you can still have an idea and you can try to make a go of it and try to make something of it, whether that's to help somebody else or to provide a service that's necessary or something that people need, a product. Whatever that is, this is the country that no matter what, you can still have the best opportunity to do that and be successful, but it does not guarantee your success being in this country. It simply means that you can try, and if you fail, you can get up off your rear end and you can try again, and you can do it over and over until hopefully you will succeed. And when you succeed, it could possibly be beyond your greatest dreams financially, the feeling you'll get from succeeding. That's what this country offers you, but it doesn't offer you anything guaranteed. And I don't think, nor would we want it to offer us anything that's guaranteed, because then you don't appreciate it as much.
Well, I sit here, I've got a grandson who is 7 months old, and failure is just part of life. I sit there and I watch him really struggle to get up on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched him just fight tooth and nail to be able to crawl. And now he's finally getting to a point where he can pull up on stuff and hold on. He can't do it for a very long time. And he falls a lot. He bumps his head on a lot. I mean, so many obstacles. But that's life, folks. Just because we're not infants anymore, just because we learn to walk and talk, does not mean that stops. We're continuously learning. We are continuously meeting one obstacle, a bit of opposition after another. And the difference is those that give up and think that somebody should take care of them or that it's not worth it, and those of us that say, you know what, till I have no more breath, I'm going to keep trying.
Amen. And folks, speaking of people that have had some success and that have tried and will continue to do so, immediately after our show, stay tuned to this network for E.T. Williams, the doctor of common sense. Folks, this guy, I don't know how he does it for 2 hours by himself. He's amazing. You've got to listen to him. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you do. E.T. Williams, Doctor of Common Sense, coming up immediately after our show tonight on this network. And all I can say is join us again tomorrow night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be here. Take care of each other, especially if you're out on the East Coast there with the big storm coming through. And God bless America.
Good night, everybody.
Don't have no plastic LA friends. Ain't on the edge of no popular trend. Ain't never seen the inside of that magazine GQ. We don't care if you're a lawyer or a Texas old man, or some waitress busting ass in some liquor stand. If you got soul, we hang out with people just like you. My hair's turning white, my neck's always been red, my collar's still blue. We've always been here, just trying to sing the truth to you. Guess you could say we've always been red, white, and blue. Pay our own dues, smoking Campbell's and drinking domestic brews. If you want to know where I've been, just look at my hands. Yeah, I've driven by the White House and spent some time in jail. Mama cried, but she still wouldn't pay my bail. I ain't been no angel, but even God, He understands. Yeah. Oh, my hair's turning white, my neck's always been red, my collar's still blue. We've always been here, just trying to sing the truth to you. Guess you could say we've always been red, white, and blue. Yeah, that's right. Daddy worked hard, and so have I. We paid our taxes and gave our lives to serve this great country. So what are they complaining about? Yeah, we love our families, we love our kids. You know it's love that makes us all so rich. That's where we're at. If they don't like it, they can just get to hell out. Turning white, my neck's always been red, my collar's still blue. I've always been here, just trying to sing the truth to you. My hair's turning white, always been red.